So
morning.
thanks
Hello.
for, hi Antoine, hi Alejandro,
Hi.
thanks for making the time to be here. Antoine, would you like to just introduce yourself, who you are and what you do, just briefly for the listeners that might not know you?
Yes, of course. So I'm a entrepreneur. Let's say it became my soul. Let's say. So I build my own projects since the last 10 years, around that. So that's obviously a big part of my life. And the other part of my life is to help others to build their own businesses. And I do that through teaching at university. So I teach at two different universities in Barcelona. And I do that as well. I started to do it for students, but then I decided that I would be interested to do it for real projects, real startups. So I started to help startups as well, and this as a consultant, kind of mentor, and this grew into as well doing it for existing companies. So I use the methodologies that I use for startups, for students. I apply them as well for bigger companies. So I have two sides. One, and I build my own, and the other is I help others to build their own.
Okay. All right, thank you. And when you say methodology, is it the Lean Launchpad that you use? I think you teach Lean Startup methodology, or
Yeah, so Lean Startup is my my North Star, let's say.
right?
I discovered that while doing my own failures. So I failed drastically the first few years. I still do, not drastically now, but I did drastically before. Now I do it, but less. Now I have a balance between successes and failures, so it's a bit more livable, let's say. But I did fail like the whole way in the first few years, and I did spend time trying to figure out what happened, and many things happened. Um, I went through all the failures possible, but the one thing that I think, plus I was in charge of products and building and stuff like that. So I really realized that the main problem we had was we didn't have methodology like Lean Startup. So we didn't have a market fit. We didn't build what people need. And after taking a step back, I realized that what could we have done? And the Lean Startup came in. The book came into my hands. I don't remember how. I think it was my own research, but I read it and it made all sense to me. It was like a illumination, basically, and a bit too late, I guess. But I guess it's never too late, though. It's part of the learnings. But yeah, so Lean Startup became really something, and the simplicity of it, actually. Because it is at the end of the day a simple framework that has a lot of things going on, but the core is actually, we can see it everywhere. We see it in the scientific methods. We're seeing it. So many methodologies, they all say the same thing at the end. We just put different names to it. We use different keywords and stuff like that. But they all, a lot of them say mostly the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my main thing. After, of course, this brings design thinking that I use a lot. Other agile methodologies, but yeah, Lean Startup is definitely the main thing I use.
So there's something I'd like to ask you. I'm sure Alejandro's got a million questions as well, but it's this area of innovation, this intersection between innovation, creativity, and the kind of volatility and ambiguity and all the uncertainty. When you're teaching, I mean, you're basically, I mean, you work as a mentor, and you also teach it directly in Barcelona, as two business students. You're teaching like lean entrepreneurship and startup methodology and innovation. If we're moving outside that, so those people who are coming directly to you, let's say people that are studying other things, anything could be science, could be anything else, in which innovation is really important in pretty much any field. Do you think it's possible to kind of get a culture of innovation into other subjects that are not related to business? They're so to the teacher of science, for example, that's saying, well, these guys are graduating from university with a degree in biochemistry or whatever, but they're not really seeing that how they can apply their knowledge or their discoveries or innovate towards real life solutions and practical environments. you think it's possible to create cultures of innovation within other subjects? And if so, how do you think you could do it?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I don't teach other subjects, so and this is not my expertise. But I do understand how life works and how I was educated. So if I will bridge the gap between the two, I would say that education lacks of to be practical in everything we do. So to apply things to real life, right? So that's, I mean, this is the massive problem of education today, right? Why do we study what we study?
Correct.
Tell me why. So innovation, which is, for me, innovation means taking something, and there's different ways to say it, but making it better or making it different. But it has a lot to do with putting it into reality. That's innovation. Innovation doesn't exist if there's not something happening in reality, which an end product, or actually it is a product. Maybe it has different type of significance, but it is about that. It's about bringing something to reality. Then we say, okay, this is innovation, not only the thinking process. Then I do think that the culture of innovation, if we add that practicality, that the putting things in reality, should be added to every subject. And actually that makes me think it's a very interesting question, because when you think about, if we were to say innovation is to be putting things in reality, that means that, okay, well, you're going to teach mathematics, you're going to learn mathematics. What does that mean? Is it something, a theory, or how can we apply that into reality? And how can we innovate through that? I believe that there's innovation possible everywhere. For me, it doesn't matter the subject. We do it with products, but at the end of the day, products can have different origins. So yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we should challenge students to say, okay, you've learning this, all right, you have the theory. Now let's put it in reality. Let's create something and try to be different than others. So try to innovate and using innovation frameworks and tools, because there is a lot of them. There's so many possibilities of using innovation and actually create innovation. But there is as well the problem of the gap between what we think is innovation and what is actually it is, right? I see it with students a lot. When I teach innovation, it's always about they believe that they have to create the iPod or the iPad, or they believe they have to be Elon Musk and go to Mars, and that's innovation. There's a massive misunderstanding about what is innovation. Innovation is very small things. It's taking something and making it a bit different. Actually, the highest percentage of innovation is literally about copying, right? It's about saying, okay, I'm taking this and I'm just going to make it different or a bit better. So from there's already an issue. But if we, first of all, is innovation taught in high school? Not really, which is crazy if I think about it. But if we were to put a culture of innovation into people, making them understand that innovation is actually something that is not, going to Mars, but it's everywhere around us, then maybe we could apply it to different subjects. But it makes total sense. It makes total sense to apply it to many subjects. And it's funny you asking this question, because I never thought it like that, because I don't teach other subjects.
Yeah,
I definitely don't teach mathematics. But if I see myself in that position when I was a kid, maybe it will have been interesting. Now, the second part of your question was how to do it. And I think I kind of answered that, but I think that by teaching what is innovation, first of all, what is it, and how it doesn't have to be that complicated, that everybody. So the other problem that we have with students is that when we talk about innovation, lots of students already shut themselves out and say, right, I'm not an innovator. Like if you have to be an inventor. So everybody can innovate if you have the right tools. And that's what I try to do with them. I try to say, okay, well, here are the tools, let's innovate together. And by the end of the few classes, they realize that they have the capacity. And it's not maybe about creativity. People are afraid of creativity because they're like, okay, I'm not a creative person. I'm not an artist. Right? So I think there's a lot of problems with the words we use and actually how I said it's not the words we use. The problem is how we define them, right? And that goes deep to earlier education, I guess. So how would we do it? By teaching what it is, guiding into what is innovation, show all the example of innovation around, and from there say, all right, okay, well, these are the tools, because there's tools for everything, and that's what is incredible. There is tools, and it's not because you've born an innovator or you have the character or the mindset of all this. There's like practical tools, and I guess these tools can be applied to any subjects. I believe so. I mean.